Half of the schools in the nation have replaced their head coach recently. Which ones are going to thrive and which ones will not survive?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. Today it is Aaron. On the other side, I am Mashfik, and I am reporting from my parents' house. So the background looks a little bit different. But yeah, we want to plug our show. Obviously, please continue to watch. We're kind of in that off season, so we've actually made the decision in order to preserve the quality of the show and be able to provide the most up to date, relevant information without having to pull too much out of our backsides. We've decided, it might be best to only do one episode for now. And we're going to ramp it back up after the spring games. But for now, please continue to watch. We love the support on this channel. Love that you guys are continuing to watch. So right now, we're just going to do one episode a week, and that'll be these Thursday episodes here. So today on the agenda, we're going to talk about, like Aaron mentioned, a lot of coaching stuff. So, a lot of coaching changes happened last year, right? Which coaching changes are we the most excited for this upcoming season? And which ones are we not so excited about? Which ones have us, scratching our heads a little bit? And then, of course, I know a lot of people don't like talking about this, but we talk about the hard stuff here. Which coaches are going to be featured on this year's hot seat, right? So, um, yeah, this 2025 season, is a complete earthquake in terms of coaching landscape. We saw this year alone 30 head coaching changes throughout FBS. Aaron, if you had to guess over the last 2 years, if you had to give me a percentage of all FBS teams that have changed their coach in the last 2 years, what would that range be if you had to guess?
I mean, my guess would be okay, bottom tier of each league. So maybe like 10 to 15%, right?
Across FBS?
Yeah. That would be my guess.
That would in the old days that probably was true. Right now we're sitting at 45%. Almost
Yeah.
half the teams throughout all of FBS have changed their head coaches in the last 2 years. So if you're watching this and your team feels like it's in chaos, if you look at two other people, another person's in the same seat as you. So don't worry, you're not alone on that one. So, Aaron, I know we had a lot of changes. We've talked about LSU and Lane Kiffin ad nauseum over the last few episodes. Let's skip over that one. We've talked about it. Give me some quick hitters in terms of coaching carousel, in case people haven't been paying attention. Give me some high level names of some coaches that they should be aware of come September.
Absolutely. So, I think if we look at some of the coaching carousel quick hits, we tend to forget about the guy who could have been the guy to, set off the domino effect. And that's James Franklin. He was previously at Penn State, got fired in October, and he was hired to basically reload the Virginia Tech Hokies. So he's definitely gonna have some type of impact. Don't know how good or bad it'll be, but I think he's bringing the ammo with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another coach, Pat Fitzgerald. He was recently at Northwestern. Now he's the head coach for Michigan State. Um, the Spartans, they went for a Big Ten experience that was worthwhile after a one-win conference season. So they're looking to stand up and get more respect in their league. Um,
Yeah.
Moving on, you got Bob Chesney. He was the coach at James Madison, a rising star for sure. He led James Madison to a playoff run in 2025. And now he's going to move on to UCLA and hopefully bring some spark back into their, offense and defense. Still got Nico, I think. So
As far
we'll
as we
be
know. Yeah.
yeah, yep. And then Will Stein, right, the offensive coordinator at Oregon, he's going to replace Mark Stoops. Kentucky, that they're finally paying for top tier portal talent as well. So they got CJ Baxter. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Maybe he can make that Kentucky offense explosive. Um, we also saw John Summerall, Tulane head coach. He's going to take over at Florida after the Billy Napier era ended in October. He's, widely considered a top five hire in this cycle because of his ability to build those elite defenses instantly. And then lastly, on my quick hits list, You have Matt Campbell, formerly at Iowa State. He's now going to replace James Franklin at Penn State. With a long time, he was a long time Iowa State leader. Interestingly, he brought like a mini cyclone of players with him. So there was a total of 24 players that transferred from Iowa State to Penn State this offseason.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Appreciate that quick hit list. I would like to, we took a look at the data. We looked at what are they bringing? They're bringing a winning culture, hopefully. What are they bringing? They're bringing players with them, hopefully. And what are they bringing with them? They're hopefully bringing something to transform the administration, the program that they are headed towards, and hopefully leave it in a better place than where they found it, right? So we took that together, and we kind of created a list of three home runs, if you want to put it that way, right? um the one you started with, Aaron, James Franklin, I think that is the most safest home run that we can call so far. So right now at Virginia Tech, granted he's bringing in a lot of people from Penn State. He right now he's got the 19th best transfer portal class coming into this fall. And Lane Kiffin aside, this is probably, you could argue, this is the best hire of the year. He was fired by Penn State, like you said, Aaron, in October, and he just landed at a program that has been a little desperate for an identity ever since the Beamer ball era, the Frank Beamer era. Right now, Franklin, he's been a monster on the trail. He's secured a top 25 recruiting class, including aside from the portal class, within months of arriving. He's got 11 flips from Penn State, like I mentioned, and he's bringing in a plus, a 600 batting average. If we're going to continue this baseball analogy, he's bringing a 600 win percentage to a program that went 3-9 this last year, and they haven't been much better over the last several years. So this one, I think Virginia Tech knocked it out of the park. Shout out to them for being able to secure a high level talent that is James Franklin.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then,
Yeah,
when you mentioned that, that 600 win percentage, that's kind of the floor that he had at Penn State, right?
yeah,
So those were some
yeah.
of his worst years, but now I
That is very
mean,
true.
yeah. So, I mean, there, there's no telling what can happen for that team this year. Uh, Next up on the list, I actually have Kyle Whittingham at Michigan State. He had a really good transfer portal class at 16th, since taking over the program. The logic here is honestly very, 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 very smart by the Michigan um, athletic director and department. They went for the ultimate stability play, right? Since you had a head coach in Sharon Moore who was fired, not necessarily based on performance solely, right? So you wanted to keep the program intact. And Whittingham, he's probably one of the most respected culture builders in the sport, right? Um, Good stats or resume behind him. He has 177 career wins and 2 decades of experience in Ann Arbor. Um, in an era of constant portal movement, Whittingham's history of low roster turnover is exactly what uh, a shaken Michigan program needs to be in the contention of the college football playoffs.
Sure. I really like that one. Yeah. And it was crazy that they were able to get him from Utah. Um, let's so this person is third on our list for home runs, but by no means is this like a third place type of thing. I think this is a great hire as well. South Florida was able to get Brian Hartline from Ohio State. Currently, they have the 53rd transfer portal class, so not the best. I was expecting a little bit more, but once Brian Hartline has a little bit more head coaching experience, whatever his next step is going to be, probably higher up in the ranks of the FBS world. I'm sure that transfer portal class will be in the teens, just like those other guys we just mentioned earlier. This is a very high ceiling move by the Bulls here. Hartline, obviously, he was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. He is the main reason I mean, we talked about it in the last episode, right? Like, who's wide receiver you? It's because of this guy here. So the state of Florida has it's talent rich for every position, but especially wide receivers. Hartline, he's produced six first round wide receivers in his career. I'm sure he's going to be able to produce more here. If he can continue to leverage that offensive mind, wide receiver university brand in the portal, USF is going to become, basically the G5 version of an offensive juggernaut, if you will. So very excited to see, the next couple of years. I doubt he'll be here more than like 3, 4 years. Brian Hartline, some big name school is going to open up, and he will be in the short list for that. But those are our home runs, Aaron. James Franklin at Virginia Tech, Kyle Whittingham at Michigan, Brian Hartline at South Florida. Like we mentioned, those are our three best picks. I want to talk a little bit more about our the ones that had us questioning. Is this a good hire? Is this really the best you could do? I know you had one over there at Arkansas. Why don't you start off with that one?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll start with Ryan Silverfield. He previously was at Memphis. Did a great job with him this season, but the SEC West, his new opponents and new territory he's gonna have to step into. Even in the 16 team format, right? It's gonna be a different planet. It's gonna be a different level of competition he's playing every week. So Arkansas fans, they were expecting, a splash like a Lane Kiffin, and many see this as a safe hire that lacks the NIL punch needed to compete with somebody like a Texas, an LSU, or an Alabama. Um, the stats he does bring though are pretty good. So, um, he had a 21-5 record at Memphis recently, right? His record against Power Four opponents was significantly less impressive. He enters 2026, on a preheated hot seat, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can scale up to this level of competition he's going to have to play.
Preheated hot seat. You think I'm blanking on his name. What was the last coach's guy name?
Oh, O-line,
The big guy.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He left it warm for him.
yeah,
That sounds a
yeah.
little.
Yeah,
That's
he
funny.
he he left he left
Uh,
it as a tough position to win at.
yeah. Right. Right.
Mm.
Um, Cool. Yeah. So let's talk about Michigan State. So Pat Fitzgerald, currently they have the 55th ranked transfer portal class. So Fitzgerald, I mean, we talked about it earlier. It seemed like Michigan State really wanted some Big Ten experience, head coaching experience. It's a huge gamble. I think hiring him is a massive gamble given the his tenure, his record, but also the off field, kind of controversy that ended his tenure there at Northwestern. From a pure football perspective standpoint, his kind of style of grinding it out feels dated for a Michigan State team that just finished what 130th in explosive plays. Like that's how bad they were. Now they're bringing a guy who just likes to run it down your throat, right? Like you would hope that your new coach would bring a new sense of identity, a little bit more modern, especially what works in the Big Ten. So
Mhm.
in I will say in his final two seasons at Northwestern, Fitzgerald went 4-20. Combine that with the trend that with the pressure of reconstruction, in Lansing, this just, I mean, to me, it's a very risky bet. It could be a home run, it could be a grand slam, we don't know, or it could be a what's another baseball term, a ground out.
Yep.
It could, yeah, right. So that's how I feel about this particular hire by Michigan State.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Next,
sorry, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
you're good. You're good. Um, yeah. Next on the list, we have Eric Morris. He's the hire at Oklahoma State. Um, he's gonna have to replace a legend in Mike Gundy. And that's gonna be pretty hard to do. And they're trying to do it, Oklahoma State, that is, with the coach who, don't get me wrong, had a great season last year, but struggled to find the consistent footing, right? And it's raising eyebrows in Stillwater. Oklahoma State, that they fired Gundy after a 4-11 stretch over 2 seasons. And Morris, the new coach, is known for his air raid background, right? But the Cowboys, their current roster was built for run heavy, cowboy back system, right? So the schemes clash, and it could lead for a long transition in 2026.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, right now they do have the 7th ranked, transfer portal class, but a lot of that is through volume, how many people they're actually bringing in 54 transfers, the most in the country. So
Mhm.
a lot of that ranking could just be purely volume, like I mentioned. Um, yeah, and obviously he is bringing in Drew Mestemaker and Caleb Dawkins from North Texas, the school that he's coming from. But I think the lack of consistency he's found in his career, that's what puts this one on our head scratcher list, right? Like it again, all these head scratchers could end up being the greatest of all time. We don't know. We're just questioning kind of the hires here. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so, you have the good and the head scratchers for new coaches coming in. Let's kind of talk about who's going to be in the early hot seat. Coaches who are, I guess, incumbents, if you want to use a political term, coaches that are returning. Um, After that bloodbath in 2025, you would think the industry's at a breather right now, but instead, the hot seat list is, already dominated by some buyouts, legendary names who are finding out that the college game is different based on the 12 team playoff era, right? Um,
I know these coaches that we're about to mention, they hate Kurt Signetti. He did it in year 2.
mhm.
These guys that we're about to mention are close to year 10 and no, not even close. Yeah. Sorry
Hey,
to cut you off.
the game and the dynamic is changing. It's getting faster,
Yeah.
right? So with that being said, you know, let's get right into it, right? Let's talk about coaches who are currently sitting in the warmest chairs as we head into the 2026 kickoff. We'll start with this first, category of coaches. We'll call them the tier one group. They either win or they're going to end up packing, right? Um, our belief is if these coaches don't hit 8+ wins, their athletic directors are likely going to, already be drafting the parting way press release. Yeah. So, Mash, why don't you kick us off with the first one?
Yeah. Listen, this guy that I'm about to mention, I'm gonna go ahead and say there was only one win that he had last year that is the reason why he's still on this list this year and he wasn't kicked out last year. That is Mike Norvell at Florida State. The win that I'm talking about is that Alabama win. That win by itself granted him another year. I don't see a reason why he's still at this school. However, he is. And they made some changes. I know they got rid of Gus Malzahn, which is probably the best part of their team from last year. So that is
Mhm.
what that is. So we'll see how long this guy stays on the hot seat this year. Um, right now, they have the 18th ranked overall team that includes portal and high school commitments. I wanted to include. I wanted to have a more holistic view into talent coming in for these hot seat guys, just because they've actually been here, so they've had time to build that pipeline. But right now, you know, they went 2-10 2 years ago, and then 5-7 last year, and then, in my opinion, the boosters, the people who are donating money, I'm sure they're very restless. Um, I it was pretty well documented that Florida State was sniffing around, looking for Lane Kiffin to come, but he obviously went to LSU. So and then we mentioned Gus Malzahn is leaving, so Norvell is taking over play calling duties again in 2026. Last time he did that without a top tier coordinator, which was 2024. That 2-10 season, they were 131st in scoring. So don't see anything good coming out of that situation. But Gus Malzahn, he left kind of late in the year, so we'll see how that what that leads to. Um, yeah, why don't you take us to our second guy here on this list.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna go to South Carolina and talk about Shane Beamer, right? So right now he's ranked 16th overall with that category you're talking about, where it has a holistic view of recruiting and transfer portal, right? Here's the situation, right? Um, Beamer, he gave a 1 billion% guarantee that 2026 will be different after a dismal 4-8 campaign, right? The issue is that this he's on his fourth offensive coordinator in almost 5 years, right? Um, Despite having potential star or future NFL star Lenore Sanders, the Gamecocks were only they were the only Power 4 team in 2025 that failed to hit a 350 350 total yard game this season. So there's a lot they have to clean up and get right to make this offense explode like we once saw in 2024. And it's going to be hard to do because their schedule, like most SEC schedules, is one of the toughest in the country. And don't quote me on this, but I think they added Georgia back to their schedule this year too, right?
Yeah, I was actually looking up the yep for senior day. Oh, tough.
Mhm.
So I'm actually looking up the schedules for South Carolina and Florida State. But yeah, just to give a quick overview, I mean they obviously have an SEC schedule. Their out of conference schedule isn't too bad. They do play at Alabama. They play Tennessee. They play at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, at Arkansas, at Georgia, and then of course Clemson to end the year. So not the most navigable, not the most. And then Florida State, just to rewind just a little bit, they still have that home and home to do with Alabama. So now they got to go to Alabama. They got to go to Louisville. They got to play at Miami. They got to play Clemson. And then end the year, of course, with Florida. I don't see Mike Norvell at the end of the year. I don't see him as the head coach by the end of the year. Shane Beamer, maybe. Mike Norvell, no way. Um, anything additional on South Carolina before we move on?
Yeah, no, no. Really hoping to see Lenore
Do you
Sellers
think
have.
he makes it to the Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, hoping he has an explosive year. Kind of off topic of the coaches, but I would love to see him have a crazy year again.
Do you think, Shane Beamer makes it to the end of the year?
I think because of how much the community, the fan base, and the athletic department loves him, he would make it, and it would just be
Yeah.
a mutual parting of ways at the end of the season if it goes bad.
That's that's why I was that's why I was unsure about Shane Beamer. I feel like the community really likes him.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of mutual parting of ways, let's talk about Bill Belichick at North Carolina. Um, I'm gonna go ahead. I know this is his second season. I'm gonna go ahead and put him on there. I think the people, the decision makers who put him in place are kind of realizing this. Let's just nip it in the bud early. Right now, they have the 21st ranked overall class coming in. We can call this a GOAT experiments. In Chapel Hill, 4-8 last season. Uh, his NFL resume is unmatched. We know that, but there's a lot of distractions here, a lot of drama with his off the field situation with his girlfriend or wife or whatever. Um, so I could see his leash getting shorter and shorter as time goes on. They added Bobby Petrino as his offensive coordinator. So this is a all or nothing season. This is just a season. This is a season where they're ready to try anything. Um, yeah, it's a boomer bust kind of season, and I think this will probably be the last. I mean, he would have to go to the ACC game or something, in my opinion, to make it another year. But yeah, I don't see that experiment going on much longer.
Yep.
Um, okay, so these are the winner go home guys. Um, this next group, I'll let you start off, Aaron. This next group of only two, but we felt like the teams aren't necessarily done with them, but because of how much they're paying for the coach and the team, there's just a lot of pressure. It's a pressure cooker being built here. So, why don't you start us off? Who do you feel like is in the most pressure cooker of a situation?
Yeah, yeah. Gonna have to go to Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal, right? He's considered to be the biggest wild card of 2026. Had a pretty good improvement and a great finish to the season. He finished 9-4 last year. But the defense still, remains a liability. Um, there were rumors that he might jump back to the NFL. So there's rumors lingering there, probably put out by some agent. And then
Yeah.
another college job last November, right? So there's rumors circulating around of what could happen if he decides to jump ship. But let's talk about the financial buyout around this, right? So it's rumored to be north of $80 million, which is the only reason the seat isn't tier one, right? He like it's gonna be a pretty penny to
Get rid of him.
dismiss
Yeah.
and wipe your hands clean of Lincoln Riley. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. He was on the hot seat last year for us, like around this time of the year. Last year, I he had a pretty good turnaround, especially on the defensive standpoint. So I think that definitely bought him some more time. But again, that really high price point, people are like, we need to see something happen.
Yep.
The second guy we have on this list is Luke Fickle at Wisconsin. He's quietly, he might have one of the best jobs in America, actually. He's not expected to do much at Wisconsin, I think, but he was paid a lot to do something, and that something has not been happening. Wisconsin has seen its win total drop every season that Fickle has been there. They last year they only went 4-8, and fans in Madison are getting a little tired of it. Right? They're used to a death by fullback, march down the field type of offense, and Fickle's air raid. We talked about this clash of mentality earlier, right? But his air raid transition just hasn't transitioned. It hasn't been there. So right now his career record at Wisconsin is 17-21. And for a guy, that went 57-18 at Cincinnati, it's just that drop off has been huge. And again, he's got a large buyout as well. And it's just that pressure cooker is just rumbling away up there in Madison. So those are who we think, you know, the coaches that'll be talked about the most in terms of their seed and who the school is looking for next. But we wanted to give you, a quick preview of that. So any further thoughts, Aaron, before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, no, just to everybody watching, hey, if we missed a coach that you think is gonna be in the hot seat, or if we missed a coach that you think was a best hire in college football, drop it in the comments and let us know.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Appreciate you, Aaron. Appreciate you, everyone else watching. We will catch you next week. Thanks.